let's talk a little bit about the Winnipeg Jets, in particular, Paul Stastny. Because yesterday, in the trade deadline, one of the earlier trades of February 26, the Winnipeg Jets acquired Paul Stastny in exchange for a 2018 first-round pick, Erik Foley, and a conditional fourth-round pick over to the St. Louis Blues. I believe the condition for the fourth-round pick relied on the fact of whether or not Paul Stastny would re-sign or if he wouldn't re-sign. I believe it was something like that. But virtually, at the moment, they've only given up a first in this year's draft, as well as forward Erik Foley in exchange for Stastny, the conditional fourth-round pick in 2020 that will most likely be decided at a later date. So, talking about this trade right here, the St. Louis Blues are really a team that, I don't want to put this into blunt terms, but they've really fallen kind of off the radar. Their December was really bad. There was a stretch starting from December 12th all the way to December 29th where they won 2 out of 9 games. January, they had quite a bit of a good January, if I do say so myself. They were a total of 7-3-1 in January, but in February this month, they're on a whopping 3-7-1. They've won 3 games at the beginning of the month, but ever since February 11th against Pittsburgh, they've lost 6 straight, and one of them was an overtime loss, so they get a pity point there. It officially lists them at 4 regulation losses in a row, but if you take a look at the totals, they've lost 6 in a row. It's not good for St. Louis, and recently, there's been a lot of debate on whether or not the Blues would actually make the playoffs. They're not in it right now, and a lot of people over there in St. Louis are just saying, yeah, they've kind of fallen off the radar, and their chances aren't really looking too good right now. Of course, things could change, but that kind of contributes as to why Paul Stastny was traded. At the time of the trade, he was the 4th highest point guy on the Blues. Of course, the only 3 higher than him were Schenn, Tarasenko, and Schwartz, that fantastic line of 3 young players. And Stastny, he's now a Winnipeg Jet in exchange for Erik Foley, who is a guy that wasn't playing on the team. He's a college prospect. He's looking pretty good, to be honest, but he's not making an impact on any team right now. And the first-round pick. So Winnipeg, this helps their playoff run tremendously. Absolutely. Paul Stastny now coming in as, I'm going to say he's going to be their third-line center, because that is basically where he's going to be slotting in. Because earlier today, it was already announced that Paul Stastny will play on a line alongside of Nikolaj Ehlers and Patrik Laine. Ehlers, Stastny, and Patrik Laine. That is a damn good line. And this is a line that can definitely throw some teams off. Because Paul Stastny, he's still got it. I mean, he got 40 points with the Blues this season before coming over to Winnipeg. He's still a player who's able to get points. And alongside of guys like Laine and Ehlers, this is just going to be amplified tenfold. And if you want to take a look at where the Jets are going to be playing these guys, I'm going to say their third line. If you take a look at that first line of Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler, you can't really break that up. That's the first line. That's the solid number 1 line over there in Winnipeg. And that second line is actually belonging to Perreault, Little, and Roslovic. And I say that because their time on ice eclipses the time on ice of Ehlers and Laine just by a little bit, and also that second line of Perreault, Little, and Roslovic. Their defensive awareness and two-way game is definitely much stronger than Ehlers, Laine, and Stastny could ever compare to, so they always bring out that second line in team defending situations, and that third line of Ehlers, Stastny, and Laine, it's more offensive-based, and their offensive talent, it far succeeds Perreault, Little, and Roslovic, in my opinion, but the defensive side of things is important in hockey too, and as expected, this is going to be very, very scary. And overall, I think this is a smart move, because the Jets are a team that roll out their lines equally. Like, the time on ice difference between the second and the third line isn't really that strong, but the defensive pressure and the time on ice is in favor of that second line, and they do rely on them more responsibly defensively. So, what does this mean? Well, it means that when other teams are rolling their first, second, and third lines and whatever, that means that the matchup for third lines in the NHL, when other teams are playing their dirty, hitting, rough, grinder kind of guys on their third line, the matchup that they're going to have is, well, they're going to have Stastny, Ehlers, and Laine to go up against. And this This provides some entertaining hockey, both for Winnipeg fans and fans of the sport in general. Because if you have a third line that's strong, you got Ehlers, Stastny, and Laine. They're not necessarily grinder-like players. These guys are offensively talented. When you have these guys going up against the grinders of the other teams, you have them going up against the penalty killers of other teams, this line will make serious dents into the defensive pressure of other teams. This line will be able to get massive production, and this is a big upgrade for the Jets, because you guys don't have Adam Lowry, because he's out, so the one who is stepping into that role on the third line, playing with Ehlers and Laine, it was Andrew Copp. And you go from Copp to Stastny on this stacked line. This is going to be great for the Jets, and it is absolutely a forward that they could definitely use in the playoffs. This is scary, and the fact that the Jets kept on pushing for a good center after they couldn't get Derek Brassard because Las Vegas screwed them over, this is still a really good move too. The Jets are in it to win it this year, and you could see that with their trade deadline performance. They also got another depth defenseman in Joe Morrow from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for a fourth. And now you're looking at a team that looks like it's going to be deep for the playoffs, because the Winnipeg Jets, they've got some injuries right now. Adam Lowry, he's out. Trouba, he's out. Tanev is out. So all these players have been solid for the Jets, and now that you got Paul Stastny, things become even better. Imagine that first or second line power play. If you got Paul Stastny in there on the power play alongside of like Laine or whatever, I think Stastny might be able to stack in on that second power play unit. DailyFaceoff.com has him in there at that second unit with Little and Perreault alongside of Myers and Nikolaj Ehlers on the point. So overall, the Jets really distribute their lines well. There's a reason why they've won so many games. There's a reason why they have 83 points and are second in the Central Division. The Jets are in it to win it this year, and they absolutely got the necessary tools to help them push forward in a playoff role. This is scary, and I can't wait to see the plays that will be developing here. Because the Jets, they've got it all. They've got it all. The first line is stacked with talent and the ability to score goals and be defensively responsible and whatnot. The second line is defensively responsible as hell. Roslovic, Little, Perreault, these guys are all good defensive players on the forward line. And the third line, which will be matching up against other teams' third lines of Ehlers, Stastny, and Laine, it's fantastic. It's really solid what the Jets were able to do, and for the price they paid. A first and Erik Foley, and a conditional fourth in 2020. Let's face it, the fourth hasn't been solidified yet, because whether or not Stastny signs, I believe, the fourth isn't going to go there. If he re-signs something like that, that's the condition, I believe. So virtually at the moment, it's just been Foley and a first for Stastny, to a St. Louis team that hasn't been doing well recently, to put things in euphemistic terms. But I digress. If you want to take a look at the trade itself, Erik Foley is a player who's doing pretty well for Providence College right now, and if he's able to succeed over there with the St. Louis Blues system, that'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate it if he did well, because St. Louis, their opportunity this year hasn't really been there ever since that really awful run in December. And you know, if you're looking towards the future, why not grab some good players? And for a guy like Paul Stastny, who they were insecure about re-signing or not, because he's a UFA at the end of this season, we don't really know if he was going to re-sign, why not? You send Stastny over to a stacked Winnipeg team to become even more stacked, possibly giving him an opportunity to go deep in the playoffs. You get back a first, you get back a good young player, and your window of opportunity next year opens up as you get yourselves a first-round pick and a guy who's doing pretty well in the college leagues. But Paul Stastny provides a good impact for the Jets today. And playing alongside of Ehlers and Laine, I have no idea. I have no idea how good this line is going to be. They could be fantastic. Of course, they could just be mediocre, but with Patrik Laine on the line, I don't think any line is mediocre. This line will most likely just tear things up. And as their third line, it's strong. It's very strong. And the Winnipeg Jets have all of a sudden, after this trade deadline, heck, after this trade, become personally one of my cup favorites this year because I can definitely see them going deep. It just depends on how well they're able to cope with the playoff atmosphere. We all know what happened last time they were in the playoffs. The Anaheim Ducks absolutely destroyed them. Actually, no, I say destroyed, but the Jets basically destroyed the Ducks. Let's be honest, the Jets were winning basically every game until the Ducks didn't deserve to win any of the games. Let's be honest here. The Ducks only led for like 5 minutes in total. Okay, that's a video for another day, but the Jets, I hope they succeed, and this line gives them the opportunity to do so. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plus, down below your trolls like Nash Wrestling and Gaming, and bye.